To complete the component-based setup, all I need, as I explained in the presentation, is to measure 3 points from the model. In this case, I have a specific model with grid lines, and I'm going to use this small piece of the model that is a square, so the model will allow me to set up my equipment. I'm going to choose these 3 points, and I'm going to see how's my setup completed. So the first thing I need to do is to select device and setup, and I need to select the option. I want to use the last instrument location, and I'm going to use the component-based setup option that allow me to choose 3 points in order to get my setup completed. So I'm going to select my first point, and I hit measure. Then I'm going to select my next point, and I move my equipment towards, and I'll hit measure. Then I will hit my third control point, and hit measure. And my receipt was to show me as close as 0 as possible. Now I can see the location of my equipment. I can see how far in distance and triangulation are my control points, or the points of my component. And if I feel comfortable with my setup, I can just hit set, and I will be able to start my layout. I can also reference my elevation, but in this case I can just go to measure, layout, and select one of the points, and my total station or my RTS will allow me to set up this point, and hit measure. So the next option should be going to device and setup, and I'm going to set a new setup. And I'm going to use the last instrument location because I'm going to use my grid lines to set up my equipment. So I'm going to use these alignments in order to set up my equipment. I need to go to device, setup, and use the grid lines option to complete my setup. And the system asks me to select my first grid line, and then the equipment asks me to measure my first point, which should be measured this way. Then the machine asks me to select my second control point, my second point in the same line. Which I will measure. Then I need to select my second line and measure my first point in that line. And then I need to measure my second point in that alignment. So at this point, the system asks me, where do I want my station? So I will select the option, and if I feel okay with my results, I will hit set. So in this case, now I can reference my elevation, or I can start doing my layout by hitting measure, layout, and selecting the point I want to measure. And these are the 2 ways you can set up your equipment in practice in the field, using the component-based setup and the grid lines.